Now, I question whether George Clooney has really spent a lot of time with President Biden in person. I'm more of a Matt Damon guy than a George Clooney guy.
Okay, some Hollywood actors are closing the curtain on endorsing President Biden. George Clooney led that charge, of course, with the news yesterday. He says the president needs to drop out of the White House bid. Clooney admitting he saw serious deficiencies at that star-studded fundraiser he was part of back in June. However, he did not sound the alarm then. Let's bring in actor Dean Cain. Why not? Listen to the ladies of The View, Dean. Welcome to you. They just chewed on this short time ago. Do we have it? Okay, we don't have that right now. They're saying, the ladies in The View, and we'll have this shortly, they're saying if he knew then, why didn't he say something then, right? And why did President Obama come out in support of President Biden immediately after that debate? So what really is happening here? What is your assessment?
Well, Sandra, I think my assessment is pretty clear. I think basically the curtain has been pulled back. I don't think George Clooney would have written. I love George. George's a good friend of mine. I love him. I don't agree with him politically, but I don't think George writes that letter without the blessing of President Obama. I just don't see that at all. They're obviously pretty close, and I think that the person pulling all the strings, personally, I think it's President Obama. And I think they were trying to get away with it until the debate happened, and then we all see that the emperor has no clothes.
Okay, so we have that sound from the ladies of The View. Let's listen here.
I don't like that George Clooney did this. I don't like that George Clooney aired this dirty laundry to the world.
The U.S. economy under Biden is boosting up the entire global economy right now. Why doesn't George Clooney mention that in his op-ed piece? I'm mad at George Clooney right now.
They're really going after him and coming to Biden's defense there.
Yeah, I mean, if you break the line with the left, they're going to eat you. They're going to eat their own. You can never be woke enough. You can never, if you're not just towing the line 100%, you're out. I think this has been going on since, it was the basement. He was in his basement campaigning last campaign in 2020. And I think that finally now it's being exposed. Everybody is seeing it. And then I think the Democrats, it's actually kind of fun to watch them, run around trying to figure out what they're going to do. And you see the breaks in the party.
Yeah.
You see Chris Coons going after George, saying he's a Matt Damon guy. By the way, they're great friends anyway. And I like both of them. I don't agree with them politically, but I like them both. And you can still do that in today's world. But I just think that now, and Rob Reiner was against him. And I think the ladies of The View are going to go down fighting, but I think it's a losing cause.
Yeah.
The thing that nobody's really talking about is it's policy, though. They're talking about his policies on the economy and boosting up the world. No, the economy's not good, Joy. It's not good at all, and everybody is suffering as a result. And so I think the policies of President Trump far outweigh anybody on the Democratic side. So for me, doesn't matter who they run, but I don't think it's going to be Joe Biden at this point.
Which is a reminder that along the way, during this inflation chaos that we've lived through the past few years, there were folks like David Axelrod, very close to former President Obama, who have said that Biden was appearing very out of touch when it came to the inflation problem. Like he just doesn't get what the American people and why they were feeling the way they were through that inflation crisis. Here's another voice adding into the mix, Dave Portnoy. Listen.
I couldn't believe they let him do the debate, which brings to the point, if all these people, Clooney, Chuck, whoever, everybody knew that this man is basically a vegetable, why would you ever let him do that debate unless you want to show the world that he's gone and get rid of him? So it's shameful.
And now questions, why are they letting him do this news conference? Those who are still supporting him to stay in tonight at 6:30, that big boy news conference. Dean, final thought.
The big boy news conference. Even calling it that is embarrassing. Poor Dave Portnoy, always afraid to voice his opinion. Good for him, and I'm glad people are speaking up and doing this. A lot is on the line here for this news conference. You said earlier, I think Dan Hoffman was on talking about how few news conferences the president has done. It's insane. It's really crazy, and it's because there's just a cabal of people keeping him, having his image, the great Wizard of Oz, and that's not who he is. And I think tonight's the deciding factor. If he shows up the same way he showed up in the debate, or even at that fundraiser, it's over, and we could be looking at him. Not even. My funny little intuition is saying he is going to. If tonight goes poorly, he will resign, and Kamala Harris will be our first woman president for the rest of this term.
Well, as far as the war chest is concerned, that would make more sense. But who knows, I guess, at this point. Real quickly, the final take, Alec Baldwin in the Rush shooting. Speaking of Hollywood, Alec Baldwin, this has been just an absolute mess and ongoing for him. Dean, real quick, final.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I like Alec. He's a friend. What he went through. Listen, I saw the footage. I'm in this special. I talk about it. I'm a sworn deputy sheriff. I'm very familiar with weapons.
Yeah.
And just looking at the footage of what they were doing, there was tremendous negligence on set.
People are so into that story and following every detail of it. So we'll continue to watch that, and we will watch the final take. Dean, thank you. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much, Sandra.
Thanks.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.